approval for the agenda, we've got to add that into, where would we put that? 10G?
Yep. G.
Has anybody got anything they'd like to add? I have one, a letter to the Department of Highways. I've got a couple complaints today about all the deer being hit going through Route 3 in Argyle. And they would like the Department of Highways to cut the bushes back or the brush back from the ditches. So,
Good luck.
oh, I know. We'll send a letter, and me and Ellen talked about another issue, or item this morning, about translation equipment. So we'll put that under, in 10I, I guess, and the other one was
H.
H. My pen's gone dead. Okay. And we're gonna have a moment of recognition for our veterans. Councillor Warden.
With under 10J.
No, she just said she wanted me
read it out.
to read it.
Oh, it's there. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah, it's on the new agenda, you probably don't have it
Okay.
under
It's all right.
number 3. And I see we have no presentations tonight. Yes, thank you, Danny. Conflict of interest declarations, do we have any conflicts with the agenda? Anybody? Seeing none? Now we'll move on to adoption of the minutes. Emergency Management Organization Planning Committee meeting of June the 1st. I have a mover?
So moved.
The agenda.
We never approved the
Never
agenda.
approved the agenda.
Ah, thank you.
One moment, I'm noticing there's something that's not on the agenda. I have a few emails, unless it's in my emails. Mr. Deputy Clerk, in regards to,
It's not. You can add it.
it's not on there? Okay, no, I certainly would like to add it. Sorry, my apologies, I thought it would be added. 10J, would it be? We'll name it, land purchase.
It's been added, so can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, we'll move right down to adoption of the minutes. And we have a mover and a seconder for the Emergency Management Organization meeting of June the 1st.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Negative minded, nay. Audit Committee of September 13th.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Regular council meeting,
Slow move. Second.
September the 13th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Committee of the Whole meeting, September 27th.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on to a business horizon from the minutes, and we have one attachment. And CEO Alan News, here to elaborate on that?
Two very quick, thank you, Mr. Chair. Two very quick updates. Welcome pole banners. There was an initial meeting with tourism stakeholders to talk to ask them what they to engage them in the process of selecting what the banners would look like. There wasn't a decision made at the time. However, another tourism stakeholder meeting is being organized for December with the intention to implement this project for the 2017 tourism season. That meeting will involve or include other things that they will be discussing as part of the tourism planning to see what, how we're going to do certain things in the next year. So that meeting might include things like the 50 things to do in Argyle and other such things that we do for regional tourism. The second piece on the Hipson Bridge, I have yet to receive any final report by BRK Engineering. BRK Engineering is also being used on a number of other projects. So we, including another project in East Pubnico, which is later on the agenda. So we're still waiting for final information on that, and I have asked for that to be moved. And that's all for those two items.
Thank you. And moving down to 6A, we have the municipal alcohol policy. Remember, we had a presentation here not too long ago, and I'm gonna be reading the 52 pages. No, Alan and myself, we put together, mostly Alan, I will say, put together option 1 and 2 if you want to read that, and we'll see where we go from there. I can't remember, did we have a proposed motion for that?
We did not. But basically what we did was we went through the 52 pages, and at the end of one of the reports, they had indicated 3 options that municipalities could undertake in terms of policy. One of them was really not practical for us, and the other 2 are listed here. So one is to establish and communicate the municipality's position on the use of alcohol in the workplace during work hours. So that's more of an external policy. That meaning, you know, like if we're doing wine and cheese, how does that work? Where can we do it? Can we not? Is it not allowed here? Is it only allowed in certain places, etc. So that whatever the policy you want to look for, that would be one of the options. The other option, option 2, is more of an internal policy, because this really addresses some of the personnel matters that might come up around wellness and alcohol abuse, etc. So we could examine our own personnel policies and certainly from the perspective of you know, when there's a situation where there's abuse of alcohol, that's treated as a health and wellness issue, and it's not treated as a disciplinary issue. I mean, there's a lot of well-established HR policies that do that anyway. So that wouldn't be much of a stretch, and while I don't think we have a policy that addresses that specifically, we certainly have policies around that kind of skirt around that a little bit. So that's the extent of the 2 options. I mean, from our perspective, there's no rush for these policies, but we didn't want to lose the momentum of the presentation, and if that was of interest to council, we would do whatever council wishes at this time.
I could speak a little bit on that. I was at, you know, on the committee, Municipal Alcohol Project Committee, and a lot has been spoken about. I was at some of the meetings where other municipalities were involved in what they've done, and one of the things which would be in option 1, around maybe limiting alcohol during our volunteer banquets, or our something that involved youth in their presence, so we show initiative that we're concerned, and we think it's a way for us to show to show
Same.
yeah, thank you, that's the word I was looking. Thank you, Kathy. Okay. Oh. You got I'm all balled up here, all nerved up. Set an example, I guess. That's what the other places who have got a municipal alcohol project, that's what they're doing. But this is up to this council. But certainly option 1 out of the 2 is the better one, if we are interested in doing that, and which I think would be all right. I'd certainly make a motion to go with option one. If somebody wants to second it, if not,
Second.
We have a seconder. Is there gonna be more discussion on this, or? I don't see no hands. So you'll be asked to draw a policy,
Sure.
and then we'll have to approve the policy
Absolutely.
eventually.
yes.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah, the draft will come back.
Yes.
The motion would be to draft a policy, so we would, yeah.
Okay,
So, I guess what we're saying with this, with the option one, are we saying that we could not have alcohol? Okay, like what we had the other night. Does that mean that we would not serve wine at that function? I'm not sure if I understand exactly what this is going to restrict, or, not that I'm saying we should have alcohol, but I just read it that it's basically engaged in official municipal work.
Yeah.
Or while representing the municipality. Now, I guess while representing the municipality could be viewed as a function that we had there. I mean, basically, that's what we had.
Yeah, Councillor Muse, my interpretation of how the policy would look is really like, we would have to draft something for you to take a look at. So, much before, and I imagine that the draft will have to be managed a couple of times.
Okay.
What I would draft for you is first of all, I would look at what's out there in terms of best practice. Municipalities host wine and cheese
Right.
events that happens in terms of, celebrate, Experience Argyle's a perfect example. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's inappropriate, but there might be, certain things that you have to do in order to ensure that, there are people that don't overdrink, or that there's certain measures that you would put in place to restrict alcohol use. I don't think it's elimination necessarily.
Okay.
But, the policy might eliminate all alcoholic beverages and consumption in the municipal admin building or in the courthouse, for example.
Right.
Those things could certainly be listed as part of the policy, so people understand, that's just not not to say that it's not tolerated, but it's that, here are the rules, these are the rules.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but again, the policy would have to come in front of us, and we would, if we saw something in the policy that we as as a council don't agree with, then the policy's gonna, we have to agree with the policy itself. I mean, now,
Absolutely.
this doesn't say that, it doesn't say what the policy is at all, it just
No.
says that we're gonna
Just
create a policy.
the motion in terms of my understanding, the staff will then look at best practices
Right.
and try to
Okay.
draft something for your review.
Yes.
And I imagine that draft will be changed significantly to meet your needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, now we all understand? All those in favor of the motion,
Aye.
Aye.
negative minded, nay. Here are no nays, motion carried. Warden's report, pretty early for that.
Yeah.
But I will mention that before I was warden, as a counselor, I attended Drumlin Heights last Friday for the opening ceremonies of the, let me get this right, senior boys soccer provincials were held at Drumlin Heights. And they're pretty proud to have that. And I attended the District of Yarmouth swearing-in ceremony last week.
When's town council?
Tomorrow.
Thursday night.
Tomorrow night,
No, sorry,
Thursday night.
Oh, Thursday.
Thursday night.
Oh, I might be back.
And today, my first official function, I went to the call announcement at the Mariner Center for the funding to help put on the mixed
Oh, the
Canadian curling champions.
Great.
So. And we're to councillors' reports. Anybody have a report? Guy first.
Yes, just a couple of things. Has been busy like everybody else with the elections. Certainly I attended a few of the regular committee meetings, but I'd like to state that we had the mass and the celebration for the veterans in Surrey's Island, which is for our District 4, which was a Saturday night, the night of the meeting we had at Salpêre Maurice. Anyhow, that's why I was a little late, but no, it was well attended. I presented a read on behalf of the municipality and brought greetings. That's it.
And Nicole?
I also attended a mass for the veterans at the SAR church, and I presented a wreath on behalf of the municipality. And I was invited again, and I also attended the newcomers banquet that Dolores Atwood puts on every year, the potluck. I attended that as well. There seemed to be even more people this year. Also, the Quinnen Fire Department had a community breakfast a couple of Saturdays ago, and I attended that, which was really well attended. And I think it was the warden, you mentioned a letter for brush cutting and that kind of thing. That's one thing while I was campaigning, I had a lot of complaints about, well, not only plowing, and there's a lot of dirt roads in my district, but also the brush cutting is really bad in District 5. And I wanted to bring that up too, so I'm glad you did. Like, what do we do about it? How do we approach that? You know, what can we do? Because there has to be a solution.
Tri-unit. Let's go with the tri-unit. Ram it. That's what I do.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Murphy?
Yeah, with the elections, there wasn't a whole lot of time to do anything much with the campaign, but anyways, I attended a service for, in Little River Harbor at the Community Hall, for the veterans, and I laid a wreath for the municipality of Argyle. And again, it's like Councillor Albright said, with this brush cutting, it's just, I don't know where you go with this. I don't know what you do with this. I know down District 2, especially Melbourne, Little River, they come down, they used to come down with a tractor, they used to make a couple cuts, but this time they just made one cut, and they left everything in the road. And there was clumps of dirt and clumps of grass in the road. And I said, are you gonna cut further over? And we don't have time. That's all I got out of that. So I don't know why, you know, with money that all these units give to Department of Transportation for, you know, to help our residents to do this. I don't know, there must be something that, you know, that the CAO maybe could send to transportation to try to get things done. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where to go with this.
We'll talk about it when we get
later.
down to the
Yeah,
agenda item.
okay.
Yeah, just to, this afternoon, I was called to see if I could go. We put flags on the veterans' graves in the Tusket Cemetery and at the, was it St. Stephen's? The church here in Tusket, there was a few there. St. Stephen's Church. That was this afternoon, which I was gonna go to the announcement for the curling, but that happened to be at the same time. I ended up going to afterwards at the rink. But basically that's it. I've had committee meetings, regular committee meetings since then, since our last meeting, so.
Thank you. Seeing no more? Okay, we'll move on to other business and for decision. Provincial legislation on wells, it's another topic that me and Ellen talked about earlier today, and we have a recommended motion, but some background. I mentioned to Ellen today that the credit union has a.
Did you miss the staff reports?
I done that on purpose, Keith.
I'm just checking that. If we were awake, yeah. Good point.
I need new glasses on the show. They're the graduated ones, and it's hard job to find the right spot. Okay, LMU, CAO, you can go.
But not too slow, right? So just very quickly, the situation awareness around the current state of water. I know that there's actually a topic on the agenda on Muff Road, so I won't go too deep in the detail, but our EMO coordinator is recommending that we reduce our services based on the survey information that we've received and based on the rain and based on the current situation analysis. There is still a need for drinking water. That need is still showing. So that service certainly will continue. What it looks like, whether it looks a little different, it might look a little different. It may fade away or phase away over time, depending on our current situation. I think what has happened is a lot of wells have recovered slightly, but there's still some people. There's still about 3% of the survey takers, I guess, that have indicated that they have no water. So those wells, you know, those are problematic wells at this point. Those wells have a particular issue. If they haven't recovered with any water, that's an issue that we need to look in further. And I guess there is a bit later on there. The first topic of discussion is the provincial legislation that has come out recently. So I won't deal with that here. We'll deal with it on the agenda item. Aquaculture, just quickly, we did send an application for funding to the province of Nova Scotia for aquaculture support. That will, the money will be used to do further studies on the nutrients of the waters, create mapping and information drone footage of the area that could potentially be expanded for oyster or sea or other aquaculture. Really, our focus is on oysters at this point, because that's really what's there now. We know, so that's really where we're focusing at this time. The nutrient information, the temperature, the depth, all of that information would be handy for any aquaculture industry looking to get in the business. So it's what we call the investment readiness piece. It just gets us ready. So when somebody is potentially interested in investing in the area, in this area, that all of the information they need is provided, as opposed to them actually going to look for it. So we feel that that's a competitive advantage if we're doing that, as opposed to other regions not. And so we had the application had the support of the aquaculture organizations in the region. The municipal admin building, I wanted to touch on that. We did receive information on this property adjacent to us on the east. We know that was the property that was recommended by the subcommittee, but that recommendation was conditional on a cost review of what that would look like. We had the geotechnical drilling, I guess, for lack of a better term, to determine what's under there. A couple of issues. One is a lot of material would have to be removed from that location and rebuilt. Obviously, if you remove it, you have to rebuild it. There would also be costs to fix any sort of drainage issue. The drainage on that location is a bit problematic for a commercial building. Maybe not so much for residential, but for commercial, it could be problematic. So the estimate right now, and it's high level, is that the cost to do that, and only that, including clearing the trees and preparing the land for building, could exceed $90,000, could be up to $100,000. So that's wasn't the intention of the subcommittee to spend $100,000 on a piece of property just to get it ready, with no real guarantee that the drainage is going to work very well. So we have to bring that back to the subcommittee and see what our options are. And from my perspective, our options are, I think we've essentially eliminated one of the locations. We may have to revisit the concept of the business park, because we do own property there. And then, of course, the other possibility we may have to consider is whether or not we would go out to do an expression of interest for somebody else's property in the region of Tuscany that would be suitable. So I'm not saying that that's what is going to happen, but I'm saying in light of the information that we've received on that location, it does change the water a bit on that decision, because the decision was under the assumption that we wouldn't be paying that much money to prepare the land. So anyway, so it kind of a setback. It doesn't mean it's impossible in that location. It's just, has its financial challenges. So we're gonna be setting up a building subcommittee meeting as soon as possible, so that they can, take a look at what the options are. And of course, you're represented by 3 councillors on that committee, which could change after today, because we're doing the committee selection. Wedgeport Sewer, I would just say that we have, over 30, properties have been reviewed by Able Consulting. They were, once they went door to door, I think some people got curious and said, yes, why don't you assess our property? So it was over 30 properties that were assessed. However, not all of them have failing septic systems. So, but it probably, you know, we don't know for sure, but I'd say, it's more than half had an issue that would definitely make them qualify for a replacement. So that was very encouraging news for us, because we want to get it to up to 44 under the project. So there is a policy and a bylaw on your agenda for today for consideration. One is your notice period for the policy, so we won't be passing that today. It'll be your notice period, and the other is the bylaw to determine the wastewater district. And that, the rest I will maybe leave off my narrative, unless there are questions or comments around any aspect of this report.
Your report or all the reports?
All.
Is there anybody that's got any questions on the rest of the report or want any clarification? No?
I was just wondering, I was looking in the Department of Public Works, John Sullivan's on the West Pubnico treatment plan. I know that, I think they're called, what, was it EXP that came and did some type of, I'm not sure, I guess, engineering at the plant for the smell issue. Just wondering if we had received, I guess, a report from them as of yet, or?
No. They have done their visit. That was done about, I'm gonna say 2-3 weeks ago. And they are gonna come back with a report, I imagine, in the near future. I haven't been given a date. I'll have to re-examine what we said in terms of timing.
Okay.
It seems to me that they were to come back to us before the end of the calendar year. It could be sooner than that, but I honestly can't recall. I know they had a productive meeting, and they were able to see the system work from start to finish. They were able to monitor how the sludge goes into the bags as well. So the other piece of their work, if you recall, is to recommend other options other than the geotubes, to try to address the issue of smell, which, while it has improved this summer, it is not improved to the extent that is satisfactory to everyone.
Okay. No, I guess I just had in mind, since the lobster season starting in late November, I was hoping to get that report and get a meeting, I guess if I'm still the chairman after tonight of the West Pubnico Sewer Committee, sooner than later, but I guess we'll have to maybe, wait until their report comes in, so.
I will contact them
Thank you.
right now.
Anybody else? Okay, now we'll move on to number 10A, provincial legislation on wells. There wasn't a lot of information out there how this was gonna work, but I think Ellen found out some information today. And you'd like to explain that to council?
I will take a moment. Some of you might recall that there was an announcement on the PACE program, which allowed municipalities to lend money to residents to improve their heating or their electricity situation. I think it was mostly heating, providing that it was a significant improvement in costs and in emissions of, carbon emissions, et cetera. So so that's a program that multiple municipalities took advantage of. The MGA was amended for that to allow to happen. So in fact, 2 or 3 municipalities took advantage of this amendment of the MGA, and they go out to the community. The community says, yeah, I want to replace my, baseboard electricity heat with a heat pump, and it costs X, Y, and the municipality finances that over time. So they pay, and then the resident pays the municipality over a period of time that's established by bylaw. So this is a very similar situation. It's another amendment of the MGA that allows for municipalities to lend money to people that are looking to, how is it worded? Providing for financing and installing equipment, including containers on private property for the purposes of the supply, use, storage, or conservation of water. So they say wells, but it's actually a little bit more than that. So anyway, the MGA amendments are not passed at the provincial level yet, and so, but we have been receiving a lot of questions from the community, and I imagine you would have as well, around some people whose wells have failed or are still not working well, and they would like to fix their problem. So in the document that I've created, and Warden Donaldson mentions this as well. Coastal Credit Union actually has a program out there that is funding or financing people that need their well replaced, dug, drilled, up to $10,000 over 5 years repayment at like 1.980%. Like, it's extraordinarily affordable. We would not be able to do that for that little money. That's really quite impressive. The understanding I had is that the rate is community driven. Is that it's okay? Well, we're not really doing this to make big dollars. We're doing this to support the community in a time of need.
Daryl says they're actually probably losing money on this. And, but it just felt something they had to do.
Yeah.
It seems to me that's kind of a, where we deal with the credit unions, and see, like, I read the report, and it seems to, it's a kind of a,
Yeah, we'd be competing.
yeah, like, but,
But would we be able to offer those loans to people who could not get a loan through the credit union?
Bingo.
What
That's
I'm
like the big
thinking.
question I had,
Yeah.
Because I've been approached already,
absolutely.
and that's kind of the question I had.
Yeah. So
About people who wouldn't be able to get that credit union loan.
That's absolutely right.
I think that you can, if you are interested in getting in this business, which it's not new, okay? It's new to us, but it's not new, all right? This particular amendment is new, but it's not the first time municipalities have lent money to residents to do something to their homes. And it is from a legislative perspective allowed. Your bylaw can handle those things, right? So if somebody comes in and does an application, your bylaw can say, first, you have to eliminate any sort of possibility that another lending institution would not support that request, right? So you can put that right in your bylaw, and then only after would they be considered for municipal support. It doesn't cost us any money. I mean, it's administrative effort. It ties up cash, right? But you get the interest. You have to charge a reasonable rate of interest, and so that will at least recover your costs in that particular instance. So from a financial perspective, it's not a. I mean, we'd have to manage how many. If we were going to do this, we'd have to manage how many we would do per year. And it might be a situation where you might see this, this year and then never again, right? There's so many variables there. But I think that, the report tries to list the pros and cons of trying to do this with the hope that council would at least at some point give us direction whether or not you're even interested in doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it doesn't mean at any point that you would stop or repeal the process. It's just we want to know whether that's an issue at this time. Pull it for council.
There was anybody before you?
Okay, couple of points, I guess. I think it'd be prudent if we waited for the legislation to be passed, or it hasn't been passed yet, and we're starting to jump the gun on what's going on. We've got all kinds of scenarios. I think we should wait for the legislation to be passed before we start forming all kinds of policies. And I also think that we should let our CAO or staff check with other municipalities if they've written anything up and look at what maybe they've done, you know, as a haste, and bring back to council some of the options. A couple of comments I had.
Councillor?
Excuse me, is our CAO almost finished with that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to bring something up to council, where I think it's probably a win-win situation. Down in Little River Harbor, at the end of almost to the beach, there's 25 to 30 drilled wells. They're 800 feet deep, and they're full of water. I know, and I'm pretty sure, and our CAO would, you know, if council does agree to CAO, and I've already talked to Chris about it. Those wells are accessible. They're on Crown land or natural resources, I think, and they're there. They're sitting there, and they're full of water. And I know there's a municipality not far from here that's already got funding from the province to build like a house, whatever little place. And I'm sure that those wells, if we could get access to them, which I think we probably could, there's, like I say, there's 25, 30. You could pump one out. You could put a pump, because this is what they did in the other municipality. You pump it out and you clean it out, and you can use that for drinking water. You have a pump and you've got a little house or whatever, and you, so it's gotta be checked once in a while, or every once in a while for, you know, bacteria or what have you. But that's fine, that can be done pretty smooth. Another thing, that would be for drinking water. Anybody that would want drinking water, it would be there. It would be there to have. And I don't think it would cost that much to clean that up. And it's not very far from the road. And another thing, you take like 2 wells, well, you could use one for the fire department. You could use 2 for the fire department. The fire department needs water also. So when the ponds are dry for the fire department, which, you know, it's like our CAO said, may never happen, but it could happen again. It very well could happen again. So I'm just asking council to maybe, and I make a motion that we get our CAO and our deputy clerk to look into this about the land, see if we could get these wells going, because they're full of water. They're full of water, and they're there. And it's like it would be a win-win situation for all the municipality. Like if they wanted water, they could go there with. If it's drinking water and it's passed, well, you know, I mean, I know that it would probably be a pain for somebody in Argyle or Quinnen or, you know, to go down to Little River to get water. But then again, if where we delivered water this year, we could get the water there in jugs. But anyways, it's just, I make a motion that we kind of look into this to see where it could go.
I don't know if we can do that yet.
Oh, okay.
Councillor Murphy, because we're still on talking about the other one.
Okay,
And we have a recommended motion
okay.
for that topic, so,
But it's just something I wanted to put out to the councillors. to think
Yes.
about.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing I was wondering too, so I agree with Councillor Surratt. Like, I think we should wait until, you know, the government does do the final reading on this and put it into legislation. But my question is, what happens in the meantime? So I've had a request. I have a resident who the water situation is still not great. She still doesn't have a lot of water. Senior. I don't think she drives, so that type of situation wouldn't really be practical for her. Asking about the well, like what kind of a time frame? Let's say hypothetically this did go through and we did draft a policy. Like, is it even reasonable to assume that this could happen anytime soon? And in the meantime, what do I do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We still have a lot of questions around the legislation. The good news is that while there's no bylaw precedent for this particular amendment for the wells, there is a template out there, a bylaw for the PACE program, and it's very simple. The bylaw is not complex at all. In theory, if council wanted staff to take the bull by the horns in anticipation that the legislation will be passed and aggressively seek a draft bylaw by, let's say, 2 weeks, it would not be impossible. It would be possible for us to be able to do that quickly because it's not complex. The bylaw just essentially sets out the terms that you would do that. Now, how long you would take to debate it and the changes that you might make might delay a little bit, but in theory, we could have the first reading of that bylaw, in theory, at our next council meeting. But the bylaw, again, is not that complex. Now, we can't do that until the legislation passes.
That's right.
It's in its final reading now. I imagine, I can't confirm a date, but it could be this week when it gets passed. I don't think there was a lot of controversy or, I mean, there's always law amendments, there's always debate, but I don't think it hasn't been a lot of controversy around it, so I mean, the modifications are so simplistic, there's not really a lot to debate, you know, so, again, I hear what both councillors are saying. We might be jumping the gun in terms of spending time on the bylaw. The risk is, of course, we spend time on the bylaw and the law doesn't pass. That would be the risk. I consider that a low risk. The reason why I bring the recommended motion to you now, a bit premature, is for the reason you just described. I think there are some people out there that might actually need something of this nature. I do have a bit of some reservations around it because of the fact that we're putting this on people's tax bills, and what happens when people don't pay their tax bills is, you know, while the payment plan is normal, you know, it may be 2-3% or whatever the interest rate is over a period of time. If they miss the payment, they start paying 17% interest. And then if they miss multiple payments and have 2 years outstanding, their property goes to tax sale. So that's a bit of a bigger problem that I would seek to avoid. And so that might delay in some sense how the bylaw is worded. That would be what could potentially delay us from doing it as quickly as I suggested initially. In the meantime, we want to take people's information, their civic number, their current situation, their current status, and submit it to our Public Works Office or to the CAO. We are collecting that information, and hopefully if and when a legislation comes through, that we be able to help them. Now, I realize this is a bit long-winded. There is, you know, community services might play a role in the low-income circumstances where there might actually be an alternate form of funding that would be available for those that qualified for that. So, depending on your situation, we would attempt to address the needs of that particular resident.
Okay, and Councillor Leon, come on.
One thing that we probably have to keep in consideration about this is that some people, because they did not have water, dug new wells themselves. And I talking to somebody in my district, and I asked him, how much is a dug well? And he said, well, I didn't get the bill yet, but somewhere around $4,000. So those people, took the initiative on their own, and I'm wondering if we could retro this bylaw, this policy, whatever, to to include them, because some of these people, they had not much of a choice. It's either go get water or dig a well, right? So something to consider.
Absolutely, good point.
I'm unaware whether it will be retroactive at this time. I imagine that in order for it to be retro, they'd have to specifically state that.
Could the policy say that, Alan? The
Um,
policy?
The problem is the bylaw would have to follow the MGA. So, if the MGA amendment is dated November 2016, it is possible that it would only start then. I don't know for certain, the answer to that question. I'll check with the province.
We should have the information, how many inches of rain we got, in the summertime. I'm sure there's a point there where, a date somewhere back in June or July that, this thing really started, so. Anyway,
I started hauling water July the 1st, and I got a foot, 4 inches in my place right
there
now.
you go. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what's the wish of council? Would they like to go with the recommended motion, or wait until our next meeting and see if there's more information?
Well,
Councillor Lewis?
I think, I understand that it has to be passed by government before we can do anything. However, with the explanation that our CEO has said, that if we wait until next meeting before we even pass this to look at a bylaw, then we're going further and further ahead, whereby if it's not that much of a big deal for staff to at least have something ready in case it passes before our next meeting, then at least they could bring the bylaw to our next meeting. So with that, I'm gonna move that the CAO be instructed to draft a bylaw that enables the municipality to lend money to residents under Section 65 and revise Section 81A of the MGA, subject to final reading and passing of the provincial legislative amendments. Now, I'm gonna make that a motion, at least to try and get it going.
Motion by Danny, Nicole seconded by Nicole. There are no more discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed, motion carried.
Before we move on, Richard had the, sorry,
Yeah,
Richard.
and Junior had an issue there. Would you like for staff to collect some information before we make motions? Or
Yes, I would. Yes, if staff to look at this and to see what,
If it's a viable
if it's a
option.
viable option
Yes.
and maybe, find out from, cause I'm pretty sure to say that there's funding for this, to get this on the go. And
Do you need a motion, to dig into that, Mr. CEO, or
Yeah.
is consensus
No,
fine?
no, I think motion to gather the information, we would have clear direction.
Right, and you made that motion?
I made the motion, yes.
I will second it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
no more discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Wedgeport capital, sewer capital levies and operating policy and bylaw. There's an action item here, isn't there, Alan? Would you like to, explain more on this?
Yeah, so, so there's two documents here. The first, 4 pages is a operating policy. So this does not require a motion, but I will take a moment to explain what this is. So the policy just guides the residents of Wedgeport and staff and council how this project is going to work. So in particular, it says what the charges will be. And I will say right off that we are checking a couple of these to make sure that the fees are appropriate. The one-time installation charge, what we're proposing in this project would be $4,700. That represents about what we anticipate to be 25% of the project cost per unit. So that's pretty good, because at the end of the day, between engineering and installation, it could cost as low as 15 and as high as 18 or 19, depending on the complexity of the project. What this is saying is it doesn't matter how complex the project is, the amount will be $4,700 per installation.
To everyone.
To everyone. Now, there is the idea that one of the things that we are considering is whether or not we can have clustered systems. And now, so the wording isn't quite right on this just yet, but that if somebody was to share one system, and there was some arrangement that it would be on one person's property, for example, there might be benefits, like we might entice that particular system to occur, only because it reduces the costs of the project, and it reduces the infrastructure burden, right? So if there was a way that we could entice a lower number, so what happens in a multi-use, they're more expensive, but they're not double. Right? They're not double the price. So there might be an opportunity to reduce that fee depending on the circumstance. That circumstance may not actually exist. We may not, there might be maybe no opportunity to put a clustered system in. So without getting into too far the detail, one of the amendments we'll make for you before this policy is brought to you for final will be that there would be a line item that would say that there would be an enticement for clustered systems. We'd not identify the amount because we wouldn't know until the situation was presented. So it just allows us to adjust in circumstances where people are willing to share. The annual operation and maintenance charge, what you'll see is it's $250. We believe that is sufficient. We don't know for certain because we've never operated it. That is the fee that Richemont charged to its residents for a similar project. So we felt that was the best information we had. And what we say in the policy is that the annual operating and maintenance fee is subject to change annually. So it's no different than any other wastewater system. You look at the budget, you determine what you need, and you adjust accordingly. So that could go up or down. Right now, I feel like it's at a good level. I'd be surprised if it went up, but it's, what that cost is essentially the maintenance of these septic systems, which they don't have to be maintained every year. So there would be a rotating build up. There'd be a buildup of money, low cost at the beginning, but then you would gather a bit of a surplus, and then you would use that surplus over time. So we can manage that. I imagine there'll be the potential for a considerable change in year 2 once we get it going. Now that fee wouldn't come in this year. If, let's say, if we started installing, like, that fee is only going to come in. There's no fee this particular year. Any of these fees would only occur, operating fees, that is, as early as next fiscal. So none of this will be charged this fiscal. The capital will be if we do capital improvements in the year. Like, once we complete the capital project, they'll be built. So the installation charge is also, so what we're saying is that there would be 2 options. One would be a payment in advance of $4,700. The other would be 10 consecutive annual installments of $470 plus interest at 3%. So 3% was considered a reasonable interest rate in this current market. So that would, of course, not change. the interest rate would not change. So that would be fixed rate for 10 years. Of course, if the person doesn't pay, it's the same thing as anything else, 17% applies on those balances. It indicates that the charges are first liens on the property, so they dealt with exactly like taxes. And then it says what we're responsible for. We own the asset, and we upgrade it, we install it, we pick the installers, we do all the work. They allow us to get on their property, and they pay the bill at the end. So the policy just outlines that in a very specific way. Again, this is your notice. There'll probably be a couple of small amendments which we will show, we will indicate and show to you before the next meeting. That policy is not in a huge rush to be passed. If you want to think about it, if you want additional information to support, then that's fine. The bylaw is a bit more, has a bit more time sensitivity to it, because the bylaw allows us to actually do the work inside the district.
So you need that to go in.
I would say that this bylaw, at the end, I would recommend a motion, because the process of putting this bylaw in place, as you know, there is a process. There's a public process, or at least a reading process associated with passing a bylaw. This bylaw, I believe has, this is, first of all, very, very similar to the Richemont bylaw. And a lot of the things that I explained in the policy are also said in the bylaw. What the bylaw establishes is that there's a district. It's in the appendix. It shows what the district, how big the district is. That district can be modified. It can be broadened in accordance with council's wishes, depending on where the demand might be in terms of these things. And so we want to get it right the first time, but it does have an expandability capability. It says that the wastewater system we own it, and they would pay us for the operation. As well, it does talk about how they register for the voluntary registry through the bylaw, and finally, the homeowner would be what the homeowner's responsibilities would be versus what our responsibilities would be.
If I may, Mr. Ward, I didn't notice anything in the bylaw in regards to future, how should I say this, how we would proceed with when we phase out the time period where it's voluntary, whether we want to look at implementation of, force on the residents to abide by these bylaws. Is that something that can be amended? Do you need to draft? Is there, or is it in there? I didn't see it.
Under page, so this would be page Article 19 and 20. Actually, 20 is highlighted there.
The financial constraints. Meaning?
So number 19 says initial registrations shall be voluntary and are subject to the financial constraints of the project as established by council by resolution from time to time. Well, that essentially means that we can't just pick 85 voluntary people. We have a budget, but it does say initial registration shall be voluntary. And then section 20 says the municipality may require a homeowner to register a property for the sewer project if it can be determined that the failure of the on-site system is contaminating other properties. Yeah. So this is how we explained it in the meeting.
Okay, so it's not so much a future thing, it's more of it gets implemented right now.
This bylaw allows us to force somebody to register a property if they are contaminating other properties. If they're contaminating their own property, we're really focusing on,
right.
We're not focusing on that right now.
Yeah. Okay. But I guess how should I say this? If we wanted to tighten the ruling, if we wanted to can an amendment be added to this bylaw in the future?
The amendment could be now or in the future.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that if this does go well and the voluntary period is over and the people who are gonna volunteer have volunteered, and, sort of like they have done in Richmond County, municipality, just if we want to sort of, impose it on people to enhance the, the value of this project, that option will always still be there.
Yes.
We're not talking about it now, and I'm fine actually with the wording the way it is now, but,
Yeah.
while I am speaking, I especially like the policy, but I've picked it apart. Thanks for clarifying that part. That's the only concern I really did have. So I will make the motion that we approve the bylaw this evening. And before I finish my motion, I'm correct that the policy itself is not time sensitive. We can leave it at, would you rather approve it tonight?
No, we can't approve that tonight
Okay.
because you haven't received your 7-day notice.
Right, you said that,
Yeah.
of course. So yes, I guess my motion is to approve the bylaw aspect of this document.
Second.
Councillor Surratt.
Do we have a minimum? Is there a minimum of people there? Or if I remember at the meeting in Wedgeport, you had some people that, there was, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 people there, or 20 people there. Was there a minimum, and this is just a question I've got on this, is there like, if we only found 5 people, then because if people, their septics are okay, and there was only 5 that needed this, would we move with the 5? And I don't have a problem. By the way, I'm just asking, was that ever established?
There's never been an official minimum established. My approach on the execution of these documents would be, if we cannot find a lot or enough people in the current wastewater district, we would amend the district going this way to try to catch more people.
Great.
We have a tremendous opportunity to spend 75% of federal and provincial money. We are going to spend it wisely, but we're going to do as many as we can with that money. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And we're quite confident we're gonna have, right now, today, I would be confident, although I don't officially know, that there would be at least 20 that would require some form of change. And we've only done really one initial review, was multiple days, but I mean, I imagine once the construction starts, and that was the experience with Richmond, is everybody,
Yeah.
what's going on? And, really, there's a lot of other promotional and marketing opportunities that we might have in the community of Wedgeport, like putting up signage saying, we're doing a project, it might be good for you, and so I think the word of mouth is really,
Snowball.
there are more than 44 failed systems in Wedgeport, so I imagine it would be,
If I may add, the district we chose, or I shouldn't say we, but the district that the engineers chose, there's a reason they chose that district.
That's right.
There's a lot of inadequate systems there, so finding a minimum shouldn't be a problem. And then the main question I hear is, when are you gonna make that district larger? Because I wanna, so if, as Alan said, if by sheer chance there is an issue with finding a minimum, we just have to make that district slightly larger and we would find it, so I don't think that's any concern. Likely this project was moving ahead.
Great. Good enough, thank you.
Any more discussion?
Just to clarify the motion, it would have to be just to approve the first reading of it, because it has
Okay.
to be advertised and then we bring it back, so you.
Which is
even if
fine.
you- Yeah, even if you had more time to look at it,
Yeah.
changes if you wanted to.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. The next item is sign-in office. And I guess basically, that's removing Aldrich's name and adding my name, I believe. So if everybody's fine with the rest of the names that are there,
Yep.
Is that a motion?
I can't make a motion for
I'll
myself.
move that we approve adding Richard Johnson as signing officer and remove Aldrich Joshua,
Second.
for the municipality.
Second that.
In favor?
The rest of the people.
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
I guess just asking, the rest of the people that are names are there, I guess, Councillor Surratt, you're still okay with signing?
A1,
Okay.
Am I checking with you, man?
50 vote down.
In favor?
Aye.
Right.
Against? Motion carried. choice letter of support.
That would be me.
Yes, I see there, you're right at the very bottom, Danny.
I received a request by the Choice Committee, which is our housing committee. They are applying for a grant through the, what's it called here? The Innovative Solutions for Homelessness Program. It's a federal grant, and it deals with housing situations. They want to do a needs assessment in the Tri-County. Now, they tried to do this last year, and there were some funds, but they did not qualify. They didn't. It just didn't fit the criteria of the grants. This one here, they feel that it does, and they would like a letter of support from our municipality in order to apply for that. The more support they have, the better it is. So I will make a motion that council issue a letter of support to the Choice Committee on their bid to secure funds through the Innovative Solutions to Homelessness Program.
Second?
Second that.
If I may,
Yes.
if I may, this letter doesn't give a whole lot of time, because they have to have the letters by the 10th, which is 2 days, because everything has to be in by the 14th for them, okay? They have included, and I think I copied that to, it's a sample letter, it's something, a draft that they put up that we can use, or we can use our own, whatever, okay? That's all I wanted to say anyway.
Any more discussion? In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. E, the Muff Road water supply. I understand that our contract is run out with the supplier, but there's still a need, so, do we have information on?
I don't have much information other than I'm still getting calls from residents in Lower West, and part of Middle West, I guess, in my district, that are, wondering about the water source because they were using it. They still need it. So, our contract is over. Is there any way of renewing a contract, or?
Yes, we've renewed the contract on 2 separate occasions. The demand dropped significantly. I know that, so I'll remind everyone, both listening and here, that's actually, it's not a public source, it's a private source.
That's right.
So we
So
worked
what's that
very.
about? What's that? I have no idea.
So the Muff Road, the Muff Road well, I mean, this was done mostly administratively. What happened was, the owner of the business had a well that was underutilized. They weren't using it at the time. So they allowed, based on a contract between the municipality and ourselves and themselves, to provide water, non-drinkable water, so people go in and fill their canisters or whatever on a regular basis. So when we first opened that up, it was quite busy. And our own employee, Vaughn D'Entremont, was there during the day, and we had volunteers in the evening in certain periods of time that were providing water. And so that happened for about, I'd say almost a month, if not more, actually. And for insurance purposes, we had to have a contract, and the insurance was a little leery in keeping that contract open indefinitely. We have renewed it a couple of times. The reason why we didn't renew it this time is that the demand had reduced considerably. If council so wishes, we can investigate and approach the private owner to have that extended if the demand, our information may not be correct. So if the demand has in fact remained, that's a possibility.
I think the demand has gone down a bit, but there's still people that need water, right? So, even if it's just a few, I would like to see that well reopened. I'm just trying to figure out the logistics, because it has to be an operator, or how does that work? It's a designated person that mans it or whatever, right? In order to fulfill the contract and all that. So at the end, I don't think Vaughn was going. It was just volunteers. who were fulfilling those obligations. And if we can, you know, maybe get those volunteers, including myself now that the election is over, I would volunteer, you know, from now to the end of November, I guess, before lobster season, if it was possible. I don't know what again, the logistics of the insurance and the contract and,
The logistics of the insurance and the contract is not complex. There are ongoing costs that would be incurred by the municipality. Any incremental electrical costs, there has been a bill to improve that location for safety purposes that we have paid because we're providing that service to the community. All of those costs, we have every intention of submitting to the province of Nova Scotia. So if the service was to continue, while we would incur those expenses, we may actually be reimbursed for part or all of those expenses. And I can't tell you how much the power would be, but it can't be that much.
no.
It's not a significant item. It wouldn't be something that council would have to approve in order for it to continue. If it's the will of council to continue the Muff Road water supply, I would first want to consult with our EMO coordinator, and obviously it's not really our choice because we don't actually own the well. It would have to be something that the person would agree to do. But you know, I'm committed to ask the question, and if it's not an issue, and if our resources can man it or occupy it,
Yeah.
then we would certainly reconsider that decision.
Councillor Surratt?
A question that I've got. Why would this be brought to council to pass if it was, and maybe I'm wrong here, if it was not brought up before? So somebody must have allowed it to get by or to open, and it was never brought, to my recollection now, maybe, of course, I'm getting old, I might have forgot this, but maybe it was brought up here, and if, you know, why is it brought up now if it wasn't brought up before? But maybe I can be corrected though.
Well, first of all, council approved a budget for the drought, and inside that, you gave me flexibility to make decisions on your behalf around the execution of that. One of those decisions included the signing of this contract to bring non-potable water to Pubnico. And it was a very low-cost option to do that. Why it's brought here is the second time it's I mean, Calvin can probably answer that better than I can, but certainly it's that the community doesn't necessarily agree with us closing it. And so, and I can respect that, you know, if that's, I don't think it takes a motion for us to restart it.
That's what I was thinking.
Necessarily, if council feels so inclined, providing that we have the resources, we would just seek to restart that situation. But I would want to talk to Janine, our EMO coordinator, and I would want to confirm that with the owner before making any such commitment to this group.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is this something that can be negotiated and then you and Calvin work out times of when it should be open and, or it doesn't have to come back here, I wouldn't think?
No, I don't feel like it needs to come back here. It's certainly something that we can coordinate, again, with the EMO coordinator and et cetera.
Councillor Quinn Dignan.
Thank you, your warden. Just to reiterate what Councillor D'Entremont was saying, I've been asked by some people in West Pubnico and Middle West Pubnico again about that well, and they said it was closed. I did not know it was closed. I actually went down today to have a look for myself, and it does have a closed sign on it.
It does.
I think we should look right now at getting it opened again, at least for the time being,
I agree.
until the water level gets back up
Yeah.
to acceptable levels for most of the people
People
in
need
the
water.
area.
People need water, it's essential.
So we don't really need a motion, do we? It's just agreement?
We will, based on the input from this group, contact the owner immediately.
Okay, thank you.
And I would go along with Councillor D'Entremont. I would make myself available to go down there at specific times to help people out if I could, fill up containers or whatever the case may be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next one is, East Pubnico Ballfield Improvement Tenders Approval. I opened it up this afternoon, at home, and I got the building permits. So I'm not familiar with this. So CAOLNUs, will you, walk us through this one?
So this is the East Pubnico field improvements. This was a priority year and a half ago. We obtained the confirmation of funding this fiscal year from the province, if you recall. These are the prices for the work. The work includes a walking trail along with a BMX or bike trail. It indicates here that there's approximately, the actual total price will be approximately 10% higher than shown, because some of the features they have to bill us hourly. So, and so the estimate that John Sullivan is putting together is 10% higher than is shown. Spinney Excavating is the lowest bid. His bid is, that company's bid is below our budget, or within our budget, I should say. And so the recommendation from our Public Works Officer is that the council accept Spinney Excavating bid for the project. And the tender package contained all the documents required in the form of the tender. So I would also bring that recommendation to you, and hopefully with a motion to accept, so that we can begin the work. The work needs to be done by the end of March 2017.
I'd like to make the motion that we accept the Spinney Excavation, their bid for the project of East Pubnico Ballfield.
I'll second that.
We're gonna get Glenn on the box tonight.
Yeah.
That's all right.
In favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Okay, 10G, bylaw. Somebody mentioned, was that?
So that's the second reading for the rezoning request.
Right.
So the motion that Mr. Fulton asked us to consider on the second reading is to move to rezone the property in his report, which was in Argyle, to rezone from general use industrial to general use in accordance with his planning report.
Can I have a move?
Move.
Councillor
Second.
Brown, seconded by Councillor Murphy. In favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. The next one is myself, would like for staff to write a letter to the Department of Highways to look at brush clearing because of deer incidences in Route 3 through the Argylls.
I'll make that a motion because in June of this year, in Argyle, in Lower Argyle, I actually hit a deer that came out of the brush, and it's just a split second, kabam. So I'll make that a motion.
I'll second it, so.
I think in those motions that were made and seconded, I think, maybe that you could put all of the municipality of Argyle,
I agree.
you know,
Oh, I agree with that.
along with, you know, your points and what have you, but all the municipality of Argyle, like, cause it's bad. It should be, you know, I've gone through many times in the 12 years that I've been here and called Department of Transportation for just some little things sometimes, and you never get it done. And you gotta call, and you gotta call, and you gotta call. Why can't we have more input with these guys than what we have? I know they're
Bring
busy,
him right there, into that chair.
yeah.
That's what you wanna do.
So, you know, it's a concern, I think, with all counselors, that you call and there's no, oh, yes, but nothing's ever done.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think we should staff should do it for the whole, all of Argyle.
Schedule.
So there's a motion on the floor for,
I'm bringing,
that.
yeah, I brought my issue because it was driven by some residents to ask me to do this, so I almost think it should be, like, I want my motion
Yes,
sent in is the way I brought it here. And then if somebody else wants to make another motion, to have the department look at the municipality as a whole, I have no problem with that, but I'm just doing what I've been asked to do.
yeah. Well, I would like to make a motion.
Well, let's deal with the first
Okay.
motion.
Oh, I thought it was seconded.
It was.
Okay.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Okay.
Now, I would like to make a motion that we ask staff to look at all of Argyle, the municipality of Argyle, all roads, for brush cutting. And sometimes, like I say, they do it in the fall, when you've traveled all summer with grass this high on the side of the roads, that sometimes you can't even see the shoulder of the road because the gravel is covered with grass. And they come down in the fall, and they do it in the fall when you don't really need it. It's dying then anyways. So anyways, I'm making a motion to,
I'll second it.
so just for clarity, could the motion, like, what is the motion? So if the motion is to look, for staff to look at brush cutting in the entire municipality?
yes.
Okay.
Please.
Do we have a second? Yeah, Ken? In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carry. And Chris, going back to the original motion that I made, the purpose was because of deers.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
I know 3 have got hit in one little place about 100-yard stretch, and that's just 3 that I know of right in that area, but there's been multiple.
The mover has hit one also, so.
And, and the guy that brought it here has also hit one. Like I hit one and got the truck fixed in Pubnico or in Tusket, drove it home and locked all 4 brakes up before I got home, almost hit another one. Yes.
I'm not sure if I could bring this up right now, but we're talking about Department of Transportation. In the information that we got in our orientation package, it says somewheres that Department of Transportation personnel will come to our meetings, and I
Bring
know
him there.
that whether it's still happening, it was happening, that the operation supervisors would meet with the District of Yarmouth, the municipality of Yarmouth. Maybe not every month, but they would go to listen to whatever complaints or whatever issues they had to deal with the department. And they had a representative, and that was the operation supervisor for that district, for that area that would go. Now, I read that, now, we've never seen anybody
Yeah.
You
here.
guys
Right.
haven't, not at all.
Yeah.
You've seen them, the first 4 years I was here.
They
you've
would
seen them
come.
once.
Okay,
I never saw him.
so I'm just wondering if that is not something that we could just, I mean,
Better communication.
Yes.
better communication with them, so that they're here rather than letters and, you know what I mean? Sometimes you get better response if you have someone there, and why, maybe they can explain why this is not getting done, or whatever. But anyway, it's just that when I saw that, I figured 4 years, I haven't seen ever the Department of Transportation come to any meeting.
You actually in come here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
once
they
in a
do,
while,
yeah.
exactly. Anyway,
Absolutely.
I don't know if that was appropriate here, because it's
No,
a
that's
different,
fine.
it's a different topic, but while we're talking on departments.
While you brought that up, why don't we have somebody make a phone call, and then you can bring back to the next meeting on what kind of a response you got to, like, quarterly meetings perhaps, or,
Absolutely.
Well, that's it, exactly.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
and as long as we're respectful when they're here, I'm sure they won't mind coming.
No.
Right.
If we rip into them every time.
Well,
we
that's
open
it
our
too.
mouth, they're
Sometimes-
No, we're not
it's
gonna rip
hard.
into them, because we're a nice council.
Yeah.
Slap 'em.
Okay, we'll put that to bed. Okay, the next one was, me and Ellen talked this morning about, I brought it up actually, in question about, translation equipment, because there's several groups that like to make their presentations in French, and there's no problem with that, but now with myself and Glenn, and Ellen says the equipment is relatively cheap, and for what little bit we would use it, like, that somebody in staff could loosely translate it as it was going on. We wouldn't have to hire an official translator. So I was just wondering if that's something that staff would be interested in, having them look into pricing or and bringing it back.
I think so, yeah.
100%. You're making that a motion again?
So
Would you like to speak on it?
yeah,
We
it-
discussed it.
yeah, like we would price
I'm sure
something.
you can make it clearer than I did.
No, you hit it bang on. We could price the translation equipment at, like, that shouldn't be, we'll price it out. I'm not 100% sure what that would look like. I don't know that the idea was to have translation all the time, but it would be that we might, when we know that there's somebody that's coming in that insists on doing it in the language, that we would respect the fact that they would do that in the language of their choice, and also respect everybody around this table, and make sure that the understandability is there. So, I think in Clare they basically translate everything all the time, right? It's done in French, and there's an Anglophone translation going on at all times. Is what I understood anyway. So I think what we're talking about is a bit of a modified approach, where it's not necessarily a full-time translator that will come every time, but if we knew that we'd have a presentation, we knew the language would be in French, for example, or even another language for all, translation might be a little harder that way, but that we would provide that service here for the councillors that want. So,
And that was my intent, just for
Yes.
presentations.
Yeah.
Or for, if we had people in the audience that,
Mhm.
that want to listen to that
Yeah.
as well,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So, we should have a motion for you to look into this.
That's the will of
I'll
council.
move.
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Pick a name, Chris.
Like a beat.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. And the last one is land purchase.
That's mine. Sorry I don't have an attachment for you. A little bit of confusion whether this was gonna be added this evening or not, but essentially, I've spoke about it here at the council table in the last year here. The Wedgeport Trail, just to give you a very brief update, was originally constructed some 20 odd years ago when the Wedgeport Tuna Museum was constructed. It's been maintained by the Tuna Museum up until recent years, whereas lack of effort, lack of funding, lack of volunteers, it's deteriorated. However, there's been new interest shown in the past year and a half. Can fully admit I've never seen interest sprout into such amount of going on so quickly in the last year and a half. Subcommittee's been struck. Funding's been very aggressively acquired, very aggressively. Amazing, actually. Crazy amount of interest. Things have been moving. How should I say this? A lot of upgrades have happened. However, it's been decided that the trail would end, as it always has, towards the end of the point in Wedgeport. There is an area there they would like to designate, in collaboration with our Dark Skies initiatives and all the promoting of tourism that YASA has been doing in our area. There is an area there that they'd like to designate as a viewing platform for the stars. I don't have some exact history where they got this, but they want to make a cement platform on a piece of land at the end of the point, at the end of the trail, where you may have seen them. Dairy Queen has some actually where they have concrete picnic tables that aren't easily vandalized. They would be stationary there. There would be some parts of the concrete platform where telescopes are be able to connect it. It's sort of a collaboration with the Dark Sky initiatives and then Active Living that our municipality obviously very much promotes. So the reason it's coming here this evening is there's been, and I will forward it by email to all of you, there's been some serious funding approved for this trail by different sectors. The Connect 2, the Minister of Energy approved $5,000. The Municipality of Argyle, we were generous enough to give $2,500 in our grants program in April. The Recreation Facility Development Grant, the RFD, it's a provincial grant, gave $20,000. Watts Windmill Fund, which is the funds generated by the windmill on the Black Pond Road that go back into the community, gave $2,600 and some change. Another windmill fund, $1,000, and ACOA recently approved $38,000. However, most of this funding is dependent on certain things, and one of the criteria is that that piece of land has to be acquired by the Trail Committee. So the Trail Committee has spoken with, I shouldn't say acquired by the Trail Committee. The Trail Committee has spoken with the landowners. It's currently owned by 2 individuals who are willing to sell the piece of land for what I'm told, $2,500. The committee, because they aren't a structural legal organization and they don't own any of the land, the trail currently sits on private land. It's owned by private landowners throughout the Wedgeport Point area. They're giving the committee, access by the old trail. It's being revamped, it's being redone. So there's a potential to spend $90,000 on this trail, which is, $90,000 is a lot for a trail. However, what they're requesting this evening is that a very rough estimate. I feel it's high. However, I'm just repeating what I've been told by the Trail Committee. I'm not part of the Trail Committee. I'm their liaison, obviously, with council. They've acquired funding for $79,000. They're looking for an extra, they're guessing 10 from the municipality on, they're asking you guys to be partners on this project. They're asking for your input to be roughly a 9% investment. I feel it's high, whereas maybe the CEO, once I'm done speaking, can maybe elaborate a little bit, but they're looking for the purchase of $2,500 of the land. They want the municipality to own that piece of land like we've done in the past in certain areas in Wedgeport, like our playground. The reason for that is not so that we assume liability. They will assume liability in this area. They don't want to pay municipal taxes each year because it's a not-for-profit group. It's obviously to promote active living in dark skies and what have you not. As well as because they don't own any other pieces of land on the trail, it's not something they want to get into. They felt because it's such a small amount, it would be the municipality's contribution. Basically a 9% investment to make sure we acquire the $90,000, which is dependent on acquiring that piece of land. So they asked me to bring it here this evening. It's not a grant. They want the municipality to purchase this piece, which I felt is very doable. It is an investment. It's a piece of land. It can always be sold back if there was ever an opportunity arising, if there ever was an issue. It's just a small parcel to make sure that we can acquire the funding by March. We can't, I should tell you that this isn't something we can exactly defer. It has to be now or never. Decision has to from what I understand, has to be made relatively soon. So I'm gonna pass it to the CEO who's dug into this a little bit. They're asking for the land purchase of $2,500 and then the associated costs, legal costs, which they're estimating may get upwards to $10,000. They're thinking maybe the municipality may be able to save on some of those costs versus if they did it themselves as well. I'm not aware of that, and I'll pass it to the CEO to maybe touch on that.
So the request says, so the request is for the land to be purchased by municipality, and they negotiated the price with the third party to be $2,500. And then there's the transfer of ownership from the landowners to the municipality and any other legal costs, which they estimate to be $6,000. That would be, in my estimation, about 6 times higher than what it would cost. That would not be how much it would cost to transfer ownership from a legal perspective. Legal might be I mean, Solicitor Boudreau could confirm, but I mean, depending on whether the property is migrated or not, it would be between 8 and...
Why was it 6,000?
Oh, I don't know.
Exactly, I don't feel it is 6,000. We'll let you elaborate on that.
Yeah, I
The
had,
property, I mean, generally speaking, depending on the lawyer, migration of the property runs from $1,000 to $1,500.
Right.
So that's generally speaking what you're looking at, depending on what other issues there are. Though. I mean, the price could be higher if there's a quiet title that needs to be looked at. If there's a current owner of the property.
yes,
The current private owner of the property.
yes.
So
we-
that you're probably looking at the, $1,500 range,
Assuming no problems.
beg your pardon? Assuming no problems. Assuming no problems.
I should have clarified, 2,500 was already gave in our grants organization, and they assumed the 2,500 for the land purchase and 6,000 for the legal fees, making the municipality's final contribution 10,000 in total. That's including 2,500 that was given in our spring grants. So they estimated this purchase here to be 7,500. I felt, and I'm hearing from our CEO and our solicitor, that instead of 7,500, we're looking more at 3,500 to 4,000. Which, I mean, you heard it from a lawyer himself. So that's what roughly you'd be looking at, in my opinion, as well.
I certainly would.
Calvin had his-
Go ahead. No, go ahead, yes.
you know,
Thank you, Warden Donaldson. I guess I just, when you were talking about owners, did you say owner or owners earlier on? Was there more than one owner?
Yes, it's owned by a marital couple that's now separated.
Are they both on side?
Sorry?
Are they both on side?
They are.
No. So
Okay.
it's one owner. It's fundamentally,
Okay.
yeah. It's not a multiple ownership, 15, 20 people.
No.
It's- yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Surratt?
I feel it's a, great thing to try to make a trail. And that the only thing there's all kinds of numbers being thrown around and guesswork and that. I'd certainly like to get a request from the trail group and have something on paper we could look at and be verified by our CAO that all those numbers are correct and, are the deeds correct, or there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts before we go and make a motion and start buying stuff that we're, just by word of mouth and guesswork right now is, there's some numbers, being thrown around, so I certainly would like to have a more definite numbers to be sure what we're talking about here. That we don't get in a situation where first thing we're giving $2,500 to $4,000, and the first thing we're into kind of a pickle and more money. You can't buy it, but certainly, I certainly have no problem, but if this could be more in an official range, that's what I'd like to see before we start going into a lot of guesswork. I find you were throwing numbers all over the place.
I
That's
appreciate
my-
your comments, Councillor Surratt. The cost of the land is 2,500 plus legal fees is what they're looking for. Simple as that. I just don't know what the legal fees are, if that helps you clarify anything. I don't know
It
yet.
does, because there was 10,000, 7,500 in that. It does help.
2,500 plus legal fees is what they're looking for.
And we understand legal fees are in the $1,500 range.
Depending, again, depending on what we find. But yeah, generally speaking, So you're,
Would it be wise to put a budget figure, and if it looks like there's issues and gonna be problems, this cost is gonna escalate, revisit it, like put a, I don't know, pick a figure, 4,500? And if it looks like it's gonna go above that for some reason?
I would agree. I think that's a great idea to protect ourselves. However, I should mention, this is very time sensitive. If you put it at 4,500 and it ends up being 5,000 and this stops a $90,000 project, I'm just warning you of that right now.
Well, that was just a guess.
Yeah, I would suggest put it high enough, if it is council's wish, that we don't hamper this project. It's, in my eyes, it's amazing that they acquired this much funding this quickly. So I'm making the motion that we approve the land or that the municipality does begin the process to purchase the land, providing that the total cost would not be more than 6,500, just to be certain.
Do we have a second? Second, okay, Councillor Surratt for discussion?
Maybe we can, as a solicitor, that you have to be a search on the deed and all that stuff has to be
If the
done.
Did you say the property was migrated, or you don't know?
Don't know.
Don't know.
It is not migrated.
I mean, if you give me a few moments, I'm on property online right now, and I might be able to find it and give you an idea as to whether or not it's migrated. And
He
maybe,
says it's
maybe
not.
Mr., beg your pardon?
He says it's not.
Oh, it's not for sure, you know it
I
well,
can
sorry,
double-
my
I
apologies.
can confirm.
Yeah. So, the question again, Councillor Surratt?
Like if it doesn't have to be searched for the deed, if there's some other people that's behind, or,
If it's migrated,
You
no.
know-
If it's already migrated, no. If it is migrated, yeah. If it
no,
isn't migrated, yes. If it is migrated, no. If it isn't migrated, you have to do a full search.
Full search.
If the migration process includes a full search,
Yeah.
verifying the title, doing a 40-year search. If it is migrated, the search takes all of 5 minutes by
Yeah.
a solicitor.
certainly I'd be in favor of that, to pass that, as long, if we could maybe put in the motion that, or maybe you won't, that depending on the migration or any problems with the deed, I don't know if you need to put that in, or that price that Councillor LeBlanc mentioned, we could set an amount, I guess, if we set the, like he has, you said, what, $6,500? Put on that,
That's the motion.
That gives them a $4,000 latitude there for,
that's right, yeah.
so it would have to be a pretty complicated
Yeah,
problem.
I'm all set with that,
Councillor Muse?
Have we done that before, bought property for any purpose? I know we own that playground and whatever.
Yeah.
Does that go against our own policy to buy property like that, just so that can be used?
Generally, the municipality may purchase land. It has to be for a municipal purpose.
Yes.
I think in this instance, there's no, I don't think there's an argument to suggest that it isn't. Now, it's not, it's because, I mean, it's recreation
Right.
activity, and we clearly can spend money in recreation. So the fact that we own that land for recreational purposes is not an issue from the MGA's perspective. We did purchase a property in Wedgeport, which was the playground. That was a very similar kind of request. It was, well, I mean, I don't recall all the details, but we had purchased that property. I believe the reasoning was to protect it from litigation, if I recall, because it was owned at the time
By the Catholic Church.
by the Catholic Church, and I think that there was a real scare that they would lose that property, and so they wanted the municipality to intervene. That was brought by Councillor LeBlanc, Charles LeBlanc at the time, and was approved by this council. The risk that you take in taking on land is regardless of whether or not the trail committee has liability insurance, you have liability. You take the risk of somebody getting hurt or something occurring at that property. I mean, I wouldn't, that's something you have to be aware of. Now, that's the case on every one of our properties. So the consequence of buying this property, understanding that there are a lot of positive benefits of owning it, the place I would caution you is that purchasing this property will engage our facilities maintenance people to do risk management tests. We got to go supervise the place from time to time. We will have a responsibility, albeit not very large. It's not a terrible thing, but I mean, while the Trail Association right now will commit to certain maintenance, we're unsure whether they would maintain our property or not. There is, of course, if in fact the Trail Committee commits to keeping and maintaining that property, that may not be a forever situation because you are relying on a volunteer organization to do that. So those are some of the risks that you take around the project, around owning the property outright. I'm unclear why they can't own the property. Maybe Councillor LeBlanc can clarify that, because if they're not an association, they could not have received a COA funding. So I don't I'm not clear on that piece. There are certain questions that we have that we were trying, like viciously trying to get the answers to, so that we could actually have it on council. So I'm not sure why they can't own it. There might, I would ask that question of you, because I don't know.
I've had as much conversation with you as, with them as you have. It is their wish that the municipality purchase it. You raise a great point. There must be some sort of an association to get a COA funding. However, they are not interested in owning the land. This would be the only piece that they would own. Mainly because they're not for profit, because it's a volunteer thing. I think the tax savings was a factor. And as believe the assessment, please don't quote me, but I believe the assessment of this piece is $600. So the revenue we're currently getting is basically non-existent. So they felt that for this one-time cost investment into this project would not, lose us any tax revenue worth talking about, given it's a $600 assessment. I think that was sort of the basis of their request.
Is the property immediately on the left-hand side or on the eastern side at the end of the road, on the end of the point?
Correct.
I believe it is migrated.
I can confirm that.
Oh, okay, you said it was.
I said it wasn't, but then I had the
Yeah.
wrong thing clicked, and when I clicked the right thing, it showed it was migrated. So that's good news.
Yes, so the legal fees are substantially less.
Who was first, do you know?
It was Calvin.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand, the Trail Association, so is it, what does the what's the relationship with the trail and the Tuna Museum?
Tuna Museum was the original founder of the trail, the original creator. They maintained it up until several years ago. However, there's been new interest expressed lately from residents, and then local residents having newly moved in wanting to see infrastructure in our area. So because of the new interest, a subcommittee has been recreated. The subcommittee is a subcommittee of the Tuna Museum.
Okay, so the Tuna Museum does own the trail still?
They don't own the trail, they never have owned the trail. The trail's on private property.
Okay, so they have the right of way to put the trail on the private land?
Word of mouth, yes, just verbally.
Verbal?
Yeah.
So it's not legal?
I'm not aware.
It is a legal requirement. Any agreement as to the use or sale of land has to be in writing in order to be enforceable. Other contracts need not be necessarily, but one on land does.
Yeah.
But, Councillor LeBlanc, in all fairness, is bringing this forward at this moment.
Yeah.
All kinds of conditions still exist.
It's just that I guess having a little bit of experience with trails and the Pubnico Point one, I know there was a few with the private owners who we had to get, permission and had to, sign that they gave us permission to pass on the land. Just trying to figure out if, word of mouth, what exactly is, if people all of a sudden decide to build a house on their, or a building or on their land where the trail passed, does that stop the trail or?
If it alleviates any concern, this piece of land is accessible by vehicle.
I'm not talking about that piece of land, I'm talking about the other piece of land that the trail is on, because the trail is leading to this piece of land. Is that
If
correct?
I may, Councillor D'Entremont, the road ends at the very end of the point,
Yeah,
and that piece of land is right there. The piece of land will always be accessible by vehicle.
okay, so it's accessible by road.
So no matter what happens to the other parts of the trail, this part is always a tourism
Okay.
attraction. There has been viewing platforms from the shoreline there
Yeah.
before.
Okay,
However, I should clarify that actually, I don't know for certain whether there's a written agreement. I should take back the fact that I said it's only verbally. I actually don't know that for sure, I just assume. And I feel like I should clarify that I don't know.
yeah, okay.
More discussion, Councillor Surratt?
If this motion happens to go through, or whichever, I'd like to ask the CAO, there's no money that's been allotted for this project. Obviously, we already have our budget. Where could that money come from? Is there room somewhere? I guess is the point.
There, for the amount of money that we're talking about, there would absolutely be room somewhere. My suggestion would be that there's gonna be, there are two areas. One is there's one in economic development, grants from economic development. There might be enough room in that line item for this. I mean, the bottom line is that it probably won't show as an expense in our budget because it's gonna be an asset that we own. We're actually purchasing land, right? So yes, we need the money in terms of the budget, but ultimately, when everything gets adjusted out, it's probably just gonna be tangible capital asset land, and because, you know, land has value, right? You know, from our perspective,
There is room.
from
There's a
a
way-
budgetary
There's a way,
perspective, no.
there's a way, yeah.
No,
Good.
that's
So
not,
the answer to my question.
that would not be
It's
the
not an issue.
reason to say no.
Thank you
That's
very
for
much.
sure.
Yep.
Okay, I guess we're gonna get some clarification from our solicitor.
Just on the issue of costs, the property is already migrated. Typically, sale of a vacant piece of property, acquiring, recording the deed, reporting back to the client, certifying title to the client in a situation such as this, you're looking at and taxes all in for legal fees and costs, about $600.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Question?
I love it. I love it.
Sorry, Lucy and Ellen wants to clarify something.
Just a clarification, if I can remember what it was gonna be.
Touche.
You don't have the option under your grants to organizations policy to address this request. That's the other piece you should be aware of.
Yeah.
Because it's a purchase of property, it doesn't fall under the grants to organizations policy. If it did, you would have to deny this request
Okay,
because you've already funded this
I
organization.
get you.
Number one. Number two, it does not qualify under your emergency request. So even if you wanted to give them the money to purchase the land,
Yeah.
you could not do that this year. Now, there's the possibility that you may wish to transfer title after you purchase the land. There would be nothing to stop you in the future to transfer title to this organization if they were so inclined.
Okay.
Right, and that would be a way, that would be another way if you wanted to, in the long term, not own the property, but for the convenience and the particular situation, inconvenient situation that you've been placed in, that they've been placed in,
Yeah.
you can do that as well. So that maybe alleviates some of the risks that I usually bring up, and the risks that as council that you're buying a piece of property that you may have to own forever. That may not necessarily be the case if you negotiate with the nonprofit organization. And in terms of taxation, I would like to assure you and the committee that the nonprofit organization would qualify to exempt their property taxes under our exemption bylaw. So that would not be,
I hadn't thought of that.
that they would not have to pay taxes on that property, except for perhaps a little fire levy, which would be minimal
Yeah.
on that
Oh,
particular
yeah,
property.
that would be that.
Anyway, I realized question was called, I just
Great
wanted to
point.
clarify that.
Okay, question was called. Seeing no more hands, in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Okay, we're down to correspondence and for information. The way I think I'll handle these is everybody gets a chance to read them before the meeting. There's no decisions to be made on any of them, or they'd be up above. But anybody that wants to make a comment on one of them, it doesn't have to be in any particular order. I'll give you the opportunity to make comments if you want to at any time we're dealing with these. So, see no hands, I assume that we're gonna move on to financial requests and community district grants, and I have two, because we had to wait since we're back in the summertime, we weren't supposed to give them out until after the election. And we both have letters, so I don't believe I'm allowed to make motions, so I'm at the mercy of somebody to make motions for these.
I make a motion that we accept these
One at a time.
One at a
or
time.
the district community grant for a Drummond High Senior Girls Volleyball Team.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I'd like to move that the Glenwood Argyle Community Hall, that we approve the grant as a.
Second it.
In favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Notice of motion by councillors.
Could I bring something up to the next meeting?
I was gonna bring that up, today, and I forgot with Alan, maybe we should have a line item on our agenda to, allow people to put, agenda items for the next meeting, like express, so they don't have to call the office and, all the time, and it just if you have a thought while you're here, just jot it down, so.
Yeah.
If it's not an official motion, Councillor Murphy, we can probably make room for putting something on the upcoming agenda.
Yeah, for decision,
Okay.
That's a notice of motion.
for,
Oh, it's good, it's a notice, if it's for
Yeah.
decision, okay,
yeah,
good, what's your motion?
it's for e-voting.
And what do you wanna do with the vote?
I wanna discuss,
So that's an agenda item,
well, however you wanna put
I
it.
think.
What would be
Chris,
the
we've
intention?
made Chris the official, Robert's rule official. This morning, yeah, I told him this morning he was the official Robert's rules person, so.
I would consider that a topic and not a motion, because there's not a specific
Okay.
question that was raised.
However you wanna put it, it doesn't make any difference to me, just that, we can talk about it some.
Okay. So
So,
we vote
I
for
don't
the
care where
next
it goes.
agenda.
Very good, great idea.
Pardon? I don't care where it goes.
So Councillor Murphy, if you have information that you want to submit to us between now and the agenda,
Yeah.
we would add that to the agenda to give context to the discussion.
Okay.
Typically, when we would add something to a meeting agenda, there's a form and we fill it out, as you know.
Yeah.
And that's more for you, for the rest of you than it is
Do
for
you
us.
do you wanna put it out on the agenda, or you just wanna,
Yeah, that would be our intention.
okay,
So
fine.
what I can do is if someone does raise a topic for the next meeting, at one meeting, I can send them the form,
Yeah.
send you the form that you can fill out.
And it
attach.
certainly won't take long, so.
Yeah, it doesn't take long, it's just a one.
No, for me here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you.
Okay, question period. Do we have any questions from the public? This is exciting, we have questions.
Good evening. I'd just like to have clarification, if I could go back for myself,
Okay.
to the request for monies for the new platform, that area. So I understand the municipality's going to purchase the property, but someone else, and municipality will be responsible for insurance purposes, because they own it. But another identity is going to build or put whatever they want on it. My question is, because the municipality holds the insurance, what qualifiers does the municipality put that this other party has to build certain things and not certain things on their property for insurance purposes? And second part, it was suggested that later you could donate the property to the folks. But if you did, they'd assume the insurance and all insurance of anything at that time, right?
The answer to your second question is yes. The idea would be that our ownership would be temporary, and if we deeded it to them for an amount, that they would assume all risks and responsibilities of that property. The first question related to what qualifiers we would need. The qualifiers, I certainly couldn't answer that with full certainty, not being an insurance provider myself. But through my experience, what insurance providers expect if somebody is putting something on your property is that they're not negligent in doing so, and that they're doing so in collaboration with your intention of the property, and that it is not contrary, whatever they put is not contrary to the liability insurance that would be in place generally for the municipality. So, from a practical perspective, that's a concrete pad. They're probably gonna put a telescope potentially, or some sort of, might even be an electrical outlet, so that you can plug, amateur astronomers might go there and plug in. Those might be the kinds of things that they might put. I don't anticipate there would be anything that would cause the insurance company to be nervous. The trail committee said that they had liability insurance for the trail. I'm assuming at this point that that would not cover the property that we own. I would assume the worst, in that circumstance. That's, would be my administrative response to your question.
Without presuming, having spoken to the municipality and to its officers about this, another option would be also to discuss a lease, a very affordable lease with the organization, whereby they would assume liability at that point in time as well, regardless whether or not the municipality would own it. But that, as their solicitor, would be something that I would explore with them and seek a decision from, first of all, the administrators and subsequently from council if it's deemed necessary to go there.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, the next item is in camera.
Gotta move to adjourn though first.
No, no, we gotta come back out of in camera.
To adjourn later.
Can I say something before?
Yes.
There's going to be, we have another meeting shortly,
That's correct.
right after. That's also a public meeting.
Yes, it is.
Just so, maybe they're not interested in what we're gonna be discussing there, but in case they were, they can't be here for in camera, but they can come back to the
Oh,
second
yes.
meeting. And the second meeting is going to be, committees of council. So, just so they know, because if we say in camera, they're gonna be gone, if they were interested in that part of it, I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The discussion will be riveting.
Why?
You made the story.
I think there's another word that can be reconstructed from that one.
Oh, ouais. Ça te va pas fort, yeah.
So we need a motion to go in camera.
We're going to camera right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
In favor?